Hello, I'm Pat Lee. I'm the VP of Strategic and Emerging ISVs here at VMware. And today I'm speaking with Alvin Richards, the Chief Product Officer at RedisLabs. And we're excited to talk to you today about VMware Tanzu and how RedisLabs works together. So, Alvin, thanks for being here today.
Welcome. Thank you for the invite. Love to talk about Redis and how we work with Tanzu.
That's great. So can you give us a little overview about RedisLabs and just what RedisLabs does?
Absolutely. So, as you're probably aware, Redis is a very, very popular open source in-memory database. RedisLabs is the contributor, or the major contributor to that open source project, and we build the Redis Enterprise version of that product when customers need the scalability or the reliability of an enterprise solution.
That's great. And how has the adoption of containers and Kubernetes been important to your business and your customers?
Containers and Kubernetes is super interesting, right? So what are the problems that businesses are trying to solve? They want to move faster. They need the ability to deploy rapidly with an ever-changing business model or business constraints they're trying to fight against. The developers love Redis because it fits in with their mental model of how a database should work. You know, developers think in terms of sets and lists and hashes, and that maps directly into Redis rather than going through various sort of object level mapping tools. And so what it allows a developer to do is build these services and microservices, deploy them and orchestrate them through Kubernetes into a Redis environment or a Redis enterprise environment, whereby they've got the scalability, the reliability from day one. They can sort of think in their world in a very simple way, and Redis Enterprise will scale behind that using the orchestration through the Kubernetes operator or the PCF BOSH tile, whatever way you want to actually go to market and deploy it.
So really allowing the developers to focus on what they're best at and not have to worry about the underlying details.
Exactly. I mean, I think that's the sort of the separation of sort of services, or the separation of responsibilities, which is the developers now can get to focus on what they truly care about, which is solving the problems, creating value for the business, and the people on the operations side have got a very simpler model or simplistic model for actually deploying and managing these services.
So with our announcement around VMware Tanzu, tell us how you think VMware and RedisLabs can work together to really add joint value to our customers.
So I think it's a great question, right? So if I think of a sort of story arc, right, we've been working with VMware and Pivotal for many, many years, through the earliest iterations of Cloud Foundry, through to PKS, and the new development of the platform. And so the reason we work together so well is you've got a technology that people want to use and deploy. With the integration that we've done, it's very simple for people to use it and deploy it and to be successful with it. And so I think it's a sort of one of those sort of 1 + 1 = 48 type of equations. You make the people successful and simplify what they've got to do. They'll use more of it. And therefore the growth for both the platform and the usage of the platform gets accelerated.
That makes sense. So it sounds like it really will help bring a lot of value to your bottom line as well.
Absolutely. So for our organization, having more Redis deployed is clearly good for us. But it's not just having more deployed, it's having more people who are successful in deploying it and see the value of what we do and what we bring to their business, how we can accelerate their development times, reduce the cost, allow the developers to get access to richer sets of data with lower latency so they can build more personalized experiences, or better session stores, or do better credit scoring or risk scoring. And so data is the sort of the game of the developer. Having more data is good. Having more data at really low latency is just exceptional.
That's great. So it seems like, how do you see the real intersection of modern apps and the people use Redis and multi-cloud? How do you see that coming together?
So multi-cloud's a really interesting sort of trend, right? And so there are some companies that have gone all in on one vendor, and that's kind of interesting. I think Other companies want to sort of hedge their bets. And it's not just between the cloud vendors, it's that they already have this existing infrastructure on-prem. And so how do you bridge those worlds, right? How do you take data that's currently on-prem and make it available for those applications that are running in cloud? And so one of the key features of Redis Enterprise is what we call active-active geo-replication.
Okay.
So that means that you can have the data sitting on-prem and in a number of different clouds, and there is replication between those, there's consistency between those, and that means that you can then use that as part of the migration from being on-prem to running not just on a cloud but multiple clouds, and utilizing those for whatever purpose you want to, but making sure that the data is available in all of those places and it's consistent and it's reliable and all those good things that you need from data.
It sounds like the great flexibility for the customer. They don't have to, they're no longer forced to choose. They get the flexibility being where they want, when they want, however they want to be.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, have your data your way, where you want it, when you want it.
So what do you think the biggest obstacles are for customers today in creating modern apps? And how can we help address those?
I think the barrier is, I think there's twofolds. One is you've got teams with existing code bases and existing applications and existing business functions to support. What are the ways that those teams can break down the problem, modularize it or microservicize it, and then push it out in containers? Then you've got the other side of the page, which is the people who've got green fields. How do you accelerate their ability to drive value to the business sooner, right? So I think of it as a time to value problem. And, both of those sort of communities have got different challenges. What the platform provides in terms of is the ability to take advantage of the deployment mechanisms and building modern microservice architected applications in the simplest way for the developers and the operators to be successful. And I think that's the key thing that helps those organizations go through that transformation process.
That's great. Can you give me specific customer examples that you can share where customers are helping solve these customer challenges?
Yeah, I mean, we've got customer examples from financial services and telco, e-commerce, healthcare, where they're all sitting in this sort of, suspended animation. They know what they want to do. They are trying to figure out how to get there. And what they're looking for is technology partners like ourselves in order to facilitate and aid that and accelerate that. And I think for each one of those industries, they've got different challenges. Sometimes it's regulatory compliance. Sometimes it's how do you retool a set of engineers who are used to working in a particular static stack into an environment where you've got orchestrated containers. And so I think a lot of what has to happen is it's not just a technology conversation, it's education and it's a human motivation problem as much as it is getting the right technology solution in place.
And understanding the business problems you're trying to solve at the same time. It's easy.
Exactly.
People like jumping to the technology, but that's usually should be the last thing you consider in everything else that you're looking at.
Yeah, I mean, we have to face reality. There's the human condition, right? You have to get a whole bunch of people to sort of take their mind, park what they have known, be willing to accept these new things, but helping them through various means to be successful, right? Because nobody wants to fail. Everybody wants to be successful with these new technologies. They want to learn new things. But, there's the human condition of sort of risk avoidance. And so a lot of what we've got to do, I believe, is it's all about education. It's showing successes. It's showing reference implementations to show how to do this. And so people can learn from the best of breed and from their peers about the best practices to do this.
That's a great foundation, definitely for people to keep in mind.
Yeah.
So any final thoughts or takeaways for the audience today?
I think, I think the key thing is to look at what your architecture is, decide what you need, and come to both RedisLabs and VMware, get the platform, deploy Redis Enterprise, and you're off to the races.
Well, Alvin, thank you so much for being here today. We really appreciate the time and you taking the time to talk about how RedisLabs and Tanzu together will really help solve common customer problems. So thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.